Welcome back to The Big Picture. I'm your host, Brian Wallace. Today's episode features someone who is shaping a huge part of Hawaii's creative industry, Aubrey Lee. Founder of Ala Hawaiʻi, Aubrey grew up in Hawaii's performing arts scene, then spent years grinding in New York, LA, and North Carolina as a production manager, line producer, and crew member on all kinds of films, TV, and reality projects. Now she's back home running her own Kanaka Maoli woman-owned talent agency and creating real pathways for local actors and models to get seen and get work. In this episode, we talk about her journey, her experiences on the mainland, and what it takes to build opportunities for Hawaii's talent. Let's get into it. Here's my conversation with Aubrey Lee. Speaking of Hawaiian business female owners that's killing it, we're talking to Aubrey Lee. You go by Aubrey Lee, right?
I go by Aubrey Lee.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my first name.
Aubrey Lee.
Yeah, Aubrey space Lee is actually my first legal name. A lot of people don't know that.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And then you own Aubrey Lee Agency.
Yeah, Aubrey
Allah.
Lee Agency. Allah.
Path.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, look at you. Did some research.
I did my research.
Yeah.
But I also do Hawaiian Duolingo. So
okay.
anyway,
Nice.
so happy to have you on. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you're the bomb. And
Thank you.
to be honest with you, I've been working with you with the Hawaii Film Alliance.
Yeah.
You've been putting a lot of your time into it.
Yeah, you
trying
too.
to,
Yeah.
managing social media and all of this, is from a place of passion.
Yeah.
All of us, it's
Yeah.
like we're giving our time for free, but I love it. I know you love it from the amount of effort and energy that you put into it. So nice having you today.
Yeah, thanks.
So I wanted to get into it. A lot of people know you as Aubrey Lee Agency, but a lot of people don't know that you've been in the industry pretty much your whole life, right?
Yeah. Actually, yeah.
You grew up, but you grew up an entertainer yourself, right?
Yeah. Yes.
What you
By force.
dancer, singer?
Well, so my parents met at Diamond Head Theater. They were dance partners. And then in my childhood, they started what's known now as the Shooting Stars.
Yes.
And it's a program that's still going, but it was originally called Diamond Head Theater Youth Choir, turned into the Show Kids, turned into the Shooting Stars.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What school you went?
I went Moanalua.
Oh, there we go.
I went Mililani Uka a couple years.
Right in the area then.
Yeah.
This your area.
Yeah, that's my area. Yeah. Moanalua Elementary, Middle School, and High School. Yeah.
And did you realize like early on that was something that you loved, or was it like, oh, my parents telling me to do this, so I got to do this?
Well, yeah. So I definitely loved it in my childhood. I did go through a phase in high school where I had to stop and go, is this like, do I like doing this, or just is this all I've ever known? And then I realized, no, I was like, okay, I like doing this. So yeah, but working in the entertainment, so I was a keiki hula dancer for the Ebb Tides because my dad was an Elvis impersonator.
At where?
At Legends.
At Legends.
At Legends.
Wow,
in
now
the
with
90s.
Bruno Mars. He never bring up Bruno Mars, did he?
Yeah. No, so I grew up with Bruno, Bruno and Auntie Bernie, his mom. She used to back up sing with my mom. My mom back up sang for Bruno in Aloha Las Vegas in Waikiki when I was like in high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your whole family, entertainment, it's in your blood.
Yeah.
And that's what do you feel like in high school you wanted to pursue that, or did your parents want you to pursue that more so?
My parents, they were funny because they're entertainers, but that was always like their hobby or their side hustle. They worked in the car business, they worked in real estate, so they always had like that kind of thing, and so they kind of told me like, make sure you have a thing, and then you can do all the other stuff in the side, because like even though they made decent money as creatives, they're like, you can't survive off of this, or they've seen people try,
Right.
and they knew it's hard. You get a lot of no's and stuff. So, but I wanted to pursue musical theater first and foremost.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So I actually moved to New York when I was like 26-ish, and because I was like, okay, this is my time. I felt like I was like trained enough in singing and dancing, and it was my time to go. And my time in New York was short-lived due to a relationship, but but it was good. It was a good experience. I loved it.
So that was a little bit after high school. Did you go to college to pursue any kind of business management or
No.
because you're
Yeah.
and you just went
I went for art.
you followed your
Yeah.
dream.
Yeah.
Just kind of, that's great.
Yeah.
That's good because a lot of people sometimes they don't know what they want to do, and
Right.
maybe they have a lot of options or maybe they feel like their options are limited. But you went to New York. That's what took you to New York.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, so for school-wise, I changed my major a lot. I changed my major like 5 times because I didn't know what to pursue as far as that went. But as far as outside, I knew that I wanted to, and I knew enough of what I thought I should do or be prepared for to move to New York. And I think I did a good job, and a lot of people around me were doing really well. A lot of Hawaiʻi people. When I was in New York, I was surrounded by a lot of Hawaiʻi people who
great.
were on Broadway or
Wow.
working in soap operas and just doing all the things. And so I feel like if I stayed longer, I would have kept going. But yeah, a lot of my friends who know me, who are around my age now, who some of them I represent now, they are telling me, they always say like, wow, what if you had an Aubrey back then? And I'm like, oh yeah, because we kind of just went blindly, A lot of our friends who I grew up with doing musical theater, some who were in, the Show Kids program with me and just doing theater around town. When we got to New York, I remember one of my friends was like, you know how we were told we have to sing, dance, and act and do all three really well?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. He was like, that's a lie. Because when we went, people were surprised that we would show up to the singing call and the dancing call. So in ways we were prepared, but, we knew we had to have a headshot and a resume and just go. So in ways we were trained and developed, but it's kind of like it's such a culture shock to move away.
Yeah.
And then also to be like at these auditions and these callbacks amongst people who are like booking stuff and then also being like, I'm from Hawaii. So yeah.
Or being known there.
Yeah.
Was there pressure as an entertainer to move to New York to feel like, oh, that's where it's at? That's the only place if I'm gonna pursue entertainment as a career that I can make it? Because out here in Hawaii, you're like, it's not happening.
Well, I think if you want to pursue musical theater and you're going for Broadway, then yeah, you got to go to New York.
That's kind of worldwide, though. Yeah, New York. That's good. You took that
Yeah.
shot, though.
Yeah, I did.
Did you have a lot of encouragement, or what gave you that courage to kind of go out all the way to New York?
Honestly, my friends. I am so lucky. I grew up with just like people who are bangers in like musical theater. Alexander Pevick, he went on to do like The Who's Tommy, and right now he's in Chess on Broadway. Yeah, he was in Wicked, he was in Aladdin. He was like, his resume is crazy. And then also Jason Tam, one of my closest childhood friends, he was in A Chorus Line. He was If Then. He was in Lisa Strada. He was like, his resume too. So I grew up with these people who made me feel like, okay, like these are the people I was with in New York as well. So I was like, okay. And, them telling me, you can do it, So,
and that's important, especially when you're young.
Yeah.
Even if you're like an athlete, entertainer, kind of anything that you're doing, if you, everybody says it, when you surround yourself with like-minded people in the pursuit of something, you have way more greater chances of getting there.
And then also growing up, I definitely am a bright kid, Mr. Bright, which is, he was always super encouraging, right? And he never pushed to be like, you need to go to Broadway, but he just cultivated the musical theater people in a way that made everyone pursue things. So his list of students who went on to be in Broadway and national tours was also inspiring. And then also early on, I was in a dance studio called Dance Works, and that was run by Simeon Den and Marie Takizawa, and they both were on Broadway. So,
and I don't know much about that, but is Mr. Bright and that dance group here?
No, so Mr. Bright is Ronald Bright. He was an educator at Castle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he passed away, unfortunately. But he such a big inspiration as an educator in drama at Castle. Okay. And then out of Castle branched 24/7 Dance Force, which is led by Marcella Pakleb, who branched out of Castle. And then Mr. Bright went on to do shows at Poliku. And then after his passing, they started I'm a Bright Kid Foundation, which is, leads on his legacy. But his grandson is Christopher Bright, who wrote Lilo and Stitch. Oh, yeah, and then his son, the Bright family is like, crazy. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, so that would you say like that was the moment, maybe younger, where you said this could be something I could pursue, or where in your younger self you said this is what I want to pursue? Was there anybody who inspired you? You watched somebody on Broadway or theater? What or who inspired you?
I mean, I was lucky that I grew up around so many very talented and amazing people. Like, again, just from the Bright family themselves, they have, they married into like the Ongwai family, and the Ongwais were such an inspiration, Jade and Zoe. So it's just growing up around these like super talented people, and they went on to do like tours and such. But I don't know if I could pinpoint like just one person really. I just think I was really lucky that I had so many people to inspire me that were around me. But like Jade Stice, who passed away recently, she was on Broadway. She's done a bunch of stuff, and she was always like a big inspiration too, especially when moving back, because she's also a mom, and she was like running all these businesses, and she was part of the foundation of I'm a Break It. So it's just like, just anyone around me that I'm just like, wow, you're like doing all this stuff, which is like super cool. One of my first dance teachers, Melanie Togio Locklear, she was on Miss Saigon. She was the understudy under Lea Salonga, and my parents, they're a big theater fans, so we got to see Melanie on her first performance ever in New York, and her closing performance, I think it was like in Washington D.C. So I grew up getting to see a lot of theater, but also seeing people we knew perform, and I think that's always like an inspiration, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's like kind of normal. You're not even seeing it as like, it's kind of how you grew up. It's normal. This is what parents did. This is what my good friends did. And
right.
You enjoyed it. You like being around them.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. But when you got to New York, you had a lot of Hawaii people around you, but was any of it overwhelming, or did you just take to it? Like, this is where I need to be.
I just took to it. I honestly loved it. Like, I felt like, it was also that time where I was like, okay, I'm in my late 20s, which looking back, I'm like, so young. But I remember, I was like, I have to go now. Yeah. This is my chance. Yeah. And especially like the life of a dancer and performer, like, how much longer until you can't do like dancing and stuff, and then you got to go into like older roles or something, Yeah. So I felt like I loved it. And not to bring this up, but I went with an ex-boyfriend, and I shouldn't have done that, because that's what made me move back home. But I was on the right track. I was in the right path. I was going to the right things, and I was training. But funnily enough, being from Hawaii, right, I'm going to these like calls, and they're asking me, oh, are you Latino? Are you Spanish? And I wasn't. Right. And so I remember I auditioned for In the Heights. Wow. Yeah, I auditioned for In the Heights, the national tour, and they were really impressed because I showed up to the singing call, and I showed up to the dance call. Right. And then they called me back, and the callback song was No Me Diga. And I, at that time, I've now choreographed In the Heights, and I'm more familiar with Spanish. I still can't speak it. But at that time, I went in blindly because, being from Hawaii, like, Spanish is really not around. No. And I had I would be so embarrassed to like play back my callback, but casting was so encouraging, and they basically were like, so like, tell us about yourself. Like, where are you from? Are you Latino? And I was like, no. And so they very kindly told me that they were like, come back again, but maybe go and like, learn some Spanish, because it was probably terrible.
Yeah. And so did they have an idea of what someone from Hawaii looked like, or was like at that time, or still was like they didn't know? There was no genre for it, right?
Right, especially in New York at that time. I think Moana wasn't even around, right? So I think the most Polynesian thing was South Pacific, which was from the 50s or 60s. Right. And so, I think people in New York weren't so familiar, really. They asked me, but I think they just asked to try to figure out, like, why can this Spanish-looking girl not speak Spanish, maybe,
I mean, that still kind of is like today, unfortunately, or fortunately, I actually will say, and, I'm Filipino-Irish, and I do stunts here and there. And I'm pretty versatile in my look.
Yeah.
Like I played a guy from Afghanistan. Usually I'm bearded up and make it up and all covered up, but I played a Filipino guy. I played a Mexican, gangster. So although it's like versatile, you still kind of don't fall into one particular category, which is, and our genre is not big enough. No. Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we're trying to grow, and that's why Chief of War was so exciting for everyone to see, that this whole show is Polynesians,
right.
And all that opportunity.
It's growing for everybody, and even like Chief of War is really great too, because it's showing what Polynesians look like, right? And how our history, our ancestors, our stories, right? Yep. So that was a really great thing about Chief of War. But it's really great also to see stuff like Lilo and Stitch and just like mixed, right? Being mixed coming from Hawaii, because sometimes too, like in casting right now too, we get kind of like, oh, we want to see like Native Hawaiian actors, and then you give them a bunch, and they're like, oh, this guy's Native Hawaiian, and you're like, yes, he is. I know he's more Asian looking, or he's more pale, or whatever, but it's like he's Hawaiian, you're Hawaiian, I'm Hawaiian, So getting, I think overall, people to understand that people from Hawaii are just really mixed, and there's kind of no real way of what people from Hawaii look like, right? Or also like Native Hawaiians, right? So I mean, historically, yes, Native Hawaiians and Polynesians are gonna look a certain type, but now, and that actually brings me to my experience when I moved to LA. Right. So I actually moved to LA after I moved to New York, moved back home, moved to LA, and I still wanted to pursue musical theater. But I was like, it's closer to home, and they kind of have like multiple things I can do. So got really back into the dance scene for a bit, and then the acting world. And I actually got picked up by a talent agent from a showcase. They came to our acting showcase, which was really fun. And they wanted to sign me. And they signed me. And then after like 2 weeks after I sent in all my stuff, I sent in all my paperwork, and they were like, oh, can you come in? We're kind of having a problem. And I was like, oh, okay. I hadn't even started yet. So I was like really scared. And so they kind of were like, we're having kind of an issue with you. We don't know where to place you. And I was just kind of like, okay. And I tell this story, and it's like wild to hear, because like now that I'm in this position, I'm just like, I can't even imagine saying this to somebody. But so one of the things they were like, okay, so you're ambiguously ethnic, which is great, but you don't speak Spanish. So that's a problem. And this is like 2014, 2015, right? And for me, I'm like, I'm never going to go in for a Hispanic role, because like I don't even know how to play that type, right? Yeah. And so they were kind of encouraging me to learn Spanish. So I was like, okay. And then they were like, they actually said these words. You say you're Japanese, but I get that. I'm like, I'm not gonna go in for a Japanese role. But they also said it like in a way that was like, you say you're Japanese. And I'm like, oh, like I'm lying. Like, oh, what? I know.
Yeah.
And they kind of were like, and you're not Hispanic at all. And I was like, no, the closest thing is like Portuguese, but like no, And so I realized like I had to like be still in 2014, still be in like an ethnic box, right? And I was ethnically ambiguous enough, but not enough that I could play different types of ethnicities, because I was like, I don't speak Spanish. What else could I go in for? Greek. I don't know how to speak that. So that was kind of hard. And then they also told me at the time, they were like, you are too pretty to be the funny fat friend, but too fat to be the pretty popular girl. Right. So I was like, okay, so what do I do? Oh. And then I know. I'm like trying not to cry too. I'm like, okay. Yeah. And I like, at the time I was also thinner then. But also I was just like, what? And then they said, you need to dumb down your looks in your headshot. And I was like, how do I do that? Because at that time I'm looking at my headshot, I'm like, I just showed up, right? And then they're like, oh, take a headshot with glasses. And I was like, okay. Right. And then I did. And then I kind of looked like the girl from, what's her name? Ariel Winters from Modern Family. Yeah. So they were like, oh, you kind of look like her. Then they were like, okay, we know how to type you now. And I was like, okay. And then they told me to take improv classes because I could do commercial work. And then honestly, after that, that's why I started working on set, because I was like, I don't like this part of it. Yeah, it's hard.
And that is, would you say that is the general experience or truth behind what actresses have to deal with when they go into a talent agency or casting in general, that feedback. What do you say about the feedback you need to be prepared for?
I feel like, yeah, I mean, be prepared for them to be harsh. I mean, and sometimes it's like, it's real, right? So what they were saying was true, I guess, right? And so it's hard to hear that. But also back then, they were really about typing people in a box, right? So it's changed in some ways a lot, and also like sometimes not a lot, but it's definitely, the climate has definitely changed. They're more considerate about different ethnicities and diversity types. And, you know, sometimes we don't always get what we want. You know, sometimes people are like, they're not Hawaiian, or they're not, you know what I mean? But for me, I'm like, at least we're getting closer. At least they're trying, and at least it's becoming more open to diversity in especially for people from Hawaii, right? And so it's, but it's also crazy when you think about it, because we had a lot of successful people in the past, like Tia Carrera, right? She's a local girl from here. She's Filipino mix. And her character on Wayne's World, they never said, oh, she's from Hawaii or she's like Filipino, whatever. And they cast her. So that's like beautiful that moments like that happened back then.
Yeah, that was awesome,
right?
Seeing Tia Carrera.
Yeah.
So Tia getting casted was kind of a big thing, because that kind of opened up, hey, that's what girl from Hawaii, or where is she from, number one, right? So, and the more we get that, the more people like seem to be open with casting for everything, not just like, you know, like even Native Americans, like for a long time they only played, like everybody was like, okay, they're only from the reservation, or you know, historically, you know, Indians, cowboys type of deal, but never in a casual like modern day thing. Like you can't, you know,
not until now. Like I think it's Stranger Things, one of the seasons, they there's like a Native American guy, the guy with the long hair. He goes on the road trip with them, and it's just like, it's just part of it. And I'm like, why can't it be like that?
It should be like that.
Or like Aubrey, right? In Mean Girls, they made her character Janice be from Hawaii, and I was like, see, not that hard. Just make us part of it.
And I just wanted to, like, you know, because that's, I think people don't understand, you know, the struggles that an actress or actor goes through, the rejection over and over and over and over again. And talk about how you felt like walking out of that meeting.
I felt discouraged, and I didn't cry, but I felt like I was gonna cry. I gotta say, like, the person I was back then till now definitely grew up a lot from then. You have to be tough, and you have to not let things like that affect you, because if you let it affect you, it's going to get harder and you're not going to be able to go on. And that's the thing. Like, I've grown up around a lot of successful people, like I had said earlier, but I've also grown up seeing a lot of friends get rejected who are super talented, right? I've had friends who moved to New York and was like, had just one bad audition, and then they just lived in New York and was stopped auditioning. So it can be very hard. You have to have thick skin, and you have to take everything, every I guess rejection as a lesson learned. But also at the end of the day, and which I'm learning right now continuously, is that it's not, there's always reasons that are just out of your control when it comes to casting, you know? Sometimes it's like, you know, if there's family members, that's the hardest, right? Because it's like, okay, then they have to decipher, like, okay, this role is like the biggest role. So casting's really going to branch off of what this guy looks like, you know? So there's that. And then there's also just, when they put out a side, right, for a script, everyone's going to do it their own way. Everyone's going to have their own take and their own point of view and bring their own experiences into this role. And that's just something that people can't copy and paste from other people. So sometimes it's just really what you bring and how you are that makes that character, right? Because casting and the directors and the producers, they don't even know what this character should look like or act like. Really, they just have this script. And sometimes too, they'll see somebody and go, wow, this is not even the person, but like, I like them in this role, or I like what they're bringing, and maybe we need to change things. So the best thing that any actor can do is really just be themselves, commit to it, you know, and just be real in the scene, and take notes of some little things, but really just make it their own, because that's gonna be why they got the role, right?
Yeah, yeah, because it's hard not to take things personally every single time, and if you put, it's already almost a little heartbreaking enough every time, no matter how strong you are. Like, nobody really can handle rejection just, you know, purely good,
Right.
But you know, overthinking it,
Yeah.
that's not going to help. That's not going to help you stay positive.
Right.
But you talked about being in there, and as harsh as they were, the truth behind it. And is there a balance between, you know, being humble enough to hear some truths maybe that you don't want to hear, and also sticking your ground and go, well, no, that's me, that's who I am,
Right.
you know? So how do you find that balance?
Right.
You know, it's hard.
So back then, I kind of was just accepted what they said. And like I said, the great thing is they told me to go to improv. And then I ended up loving improv. I do improv now to this day. I'm in a group called Improv Supprets. So, and I do that as like my hobby and my release. And people who are still like, oh, are you still performing? I'm like, I do that.
Yeah, that's
you know?
great.
Yeah.
That's fun.
So that was the great thing, that it led me to that. But also, if I wanted to, I could have been like, you know what? I'm going to learn Spanish, or I'm going to lose weight, or I'm going to gain weight. I'm going to like figure out which way to go, you know? I could have done all that, but I don't, I think it made me discouraged for sure in ways. I still kept doing it, but then it was really, I think, serendipitous that a friend of mine, a coworker, I was working with her at a restaurant in LA, and she was like, do you want to try, she was also an actor too. So she was like, do you want to try working on set? And I was like, sure.
Right.
So I PA'd, and I was like, oh, I love this.
Really?
Yeah. And it's funny because also prior to that, I had done some background work, and I hated background.
Yeah.
I hated calling the center. Right. I did it like 3 times, and just like waiting.
Yeah.
And just, I was like, and it wasn't so much that, it was just the waiting for me, because I was like, I got to do something. I got to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then also in LA, when you're in background, like everyone's like talking and just like, oh, did you book this thing? And blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, oh my God. And that was happening at like every type of audition, just acting, or also musical theater. And just like the chatter of like, oh, did she book that? I'm just like everyone kind of psyching each other out. Right. So I got to a point though, even though I'm very sociable, I got to a point at auditions where I would just have my headphones on. I was like, nobody talk to me.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Good. Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about like the process, right? It's like everyone, you know, maybe in this out of fear, how people talk about how much stuff they got going on. Oh, I'm auditioning for this, I'm booking that. And that happens everywhere in our industry, you know, because it's like you do want to feel like you're a person that can be respected as being wanted for your talent or your skill.
Right.
But it's hard because sometimes, you know, you don't know who finds discouragement out of that, or social awkwardness out of that, you know, so. But so you started to PA and you liked it.
I loved
better
it.
Than background, because then now you're telling background like, hey, you're gonna walk from over there to over there.
Oh, I fired background. I ended up firing, not as a PA, but I ended up firing background.
And at that level, as a PA, were you just learning how, because you came from dance, performance, theatrical, stage, but this was now TV or feature film, and now you're kind of learning that the same but different. Yeah.
And that's what I kind of end up realizing, like being on set in a way is like being in a theater doing a show, right? Like it very very different, but very similar. Like I think anyone who does theater could actually do work on set, like easily, more easy than most careers, right? But yeah, so I PA'd for, oh gosh, what was it called? It was like a zombie sci-fi movie with Joey Lawrence.
Oh wow.
Yeah, with Joey Lawrence. He was a fun time. I actually met him as a child. So I ended up being he ended up liking me. So I ended up being kind of like his personal, like, I would drive him on the golf cart.
Oh, right.
I would do his like trailer stuff. He would vent to me about things.
Yeah.
So I was his therapist.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that was my first time. And it was fun. It was fun. It was fun seeing like the movie magic of it all too. And I think also because like my love for musical theater also stems that I love old movie musicals, right? Because when you think about it, Hollywood was movie musicals.
Just recorded. Yeah.
And I was always like, oh my God, I would have loved to, you know, been on set back then and just do movie after movie and singing and dancing and all that, the glamorous part of that, which we know really wasn't so glamorous, but I loved that. So working on set was super cool, super fun. I learned quickly. I think by my third project, I was already APOC. Assistant Production Office Coordinator. And so the company I was working for was Asylum, which is Sharknado, as everyone knows it. Yeah. So they actually make a lot of films that go on to like Sci-Fi or Lifetime, and you just have different line producers, and so I got to grow and learn under this one line producer. She ended up really liked working with me, so I worked my way up with her all the way to production manager, and she like taught me how to. Well, I found out later she was teaching me how to line produce, but I was doing her work.
Right.
And then I worked under another line producer. Yeah. And I started doing stuff, and he was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Aren't I working?" And he was like, "You're doing my job." And I was like, she was making me do that.
I know. She's so smart.
I know. She was so smart. And she said, she was like, "Oh, I was training her." I was like, "Oh, thanks."
But it sounded like you had, like you said, you learned quick, you advanced pretty quick into these different positions. What do you think it was about you or your mindset or, that kind of had people seeing you? I just wanted to like know what advantage maybe other people can hear that kept you in that game.
I think for me personally, it was also like, my experience, right, with my background, and then also working in a busy restaurant, because working in a busy restaurant, you got to go, right? And just make things happen, right? And sometimes you don't even have time to think, right? And I think being on set is a lot of like, hurry up and wait. Hurry up and wait. So when you're hurrying up, you got to hurry, and then you got to chill. So I think that helped me. And then understanding, I think, like, just like how theater, I was like, oh, okay, so this stuff is like that in theater. Right. You know, I was able to mix and match like that and relate in that way. And then so it was really funny too, because then they also realized that I was good with talent. So then I started doing like ADing, right? Second AD, first AD. So I was kind of like, I was doing really well because people were pulling me to do various things because they're like, oh, she could do this one or she could do this one. So it was going really great and fun, and I loved it. And I'd be driving all the way 3 hours up north on the 405 and all the way down Long Beach, and just like, yeah.
And so did you know early on, okay, I'm going to go this AD route and become a director, or was there still anything that you was particularly pursuing, or were you just taking all in, learning different things?
I was taking it all in, but I definitely, my path was going more towards, just because of the people who were taking me on were kind of leading me more towards line producing, right? And then production coordinating and production managing. I was good at being organized while being in, in a tent by the Batman cave, or like, you know what I mean? Like,
Totally.
Wherever we were. And then, but then also they knew that I had a good way of getting people to listen to me, right? And so, so some stuff I got, like I worked on The Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce, which was on HBO, and I was just in charge of, all the talent. I was like walking Retta and Alana Ubach around set and stuff and doing that. So, and I like doing that too, because that was more like being sociable and just making sure they're on time and, going to where they're supposed to be. And less paperwork. So I was fine. But I knew I could go either way. And I kind of was fine just being like open to whatever, because I got to experience so many cool things,
Yeah. And why are you not a UPM at this point? Was there a certain point where you're like, this is not for me, this is like taking up too much time, it's too stressful? What was it that made you kind of stop that path?
Well, I got pregnant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So in LA, me and my husband, we got pregnant. Our plan was to stay in LA, and we lived in Culver City. And I was like, I'm gonna work at Sony, because Sony was right there. And I was like, I'm gonna work for Sony because I could work in the office. And that's honestly why I was like, maybe I'll keep going the production route, because I can work 9 to 5, and so that was the goal. And then after my son was born, 3 months in, we were like sitting in traffic, and I was like, "We gotta go."
It's not it. This is not it.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we moved to North Carolina.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
I moved to North Carolina, and then I got a job
For a
working.
gig? For a
No,
gig?
my
or-
husband's from North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So
Awesome.
yeah, so we moved to Winston-Salem. His grandma had a house. We're like, let's go.
Yeah.
And just kind of like chill for a bit. And then I got a job working on a reality TV show in North Carolina.
Did you put yourself out there? Are you calling people from LA like, hey, I'm in North Carolina if you hear anything?
So North Carolina has a great like industry website.
Really?
Yeah, they had a directory. So I just like signed up, and then somebody reached out to me for this job. They were out in Reedsville, and I was like, I don't even know where that is. It was like an hour. Yeah, right. North of Greensboro, if anyone knows North Carolina. I was like, Nowheresville. Sorry, Reedsville. But like it was like an hour away. But it was like a 9 to 5 show, because they had to film in the garage while it was like daylight.
Yeah.
So I was like, this works out.
Oh yeah.
So I was doing that, and then I did 2 seasons, and the
Raising your son. The same
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Because it's like a 9 to 5 job, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, my husband would stay home. He'd work at a restaurant at night and just like switch.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, but it was still
That's
better.
Still hard.
It's still hard, but
Yeah.
it was still better than me being on set 12 to 18 hours.
Yeah.
Let's not. Yeah. And then in LA, it's like 12, 18 hours, and then an hour home.
Driving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just knew that was not a possible thing. Even at first, though, the studio that I was working for and the line producers I was working for, they were so nice, because they were like, "Oh, pre-production, post-production, you can bring your son. Just bring him to the studio. You know, just bring a bassinet or whatever."
It's kind of like Hawaii vibes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Every job I got was because of someone I knew who referred me. I got to work with Natalie Portman. Got to work on a Train music video. And it was literally because people were calling me. So I was always working because, and I think that's great advice for anybody. It's like, you're going to get, it's the same thing here. The more you do a good job, you get along with people, the more people are going to refer you to work with other people, right?
And, you know, we know that, especially now, we know that. So can you think back at that time, were you putting effort into networking? How much people, maybe you weren't, but how much should people put effort into networking, and how important is that in this industry?
I think networking is very important, and I think you gotta be genuine about it, because if they sense any fakeness, then it's like, you know. And also I think being able to commit to what you're capable of doing. Yeah. I think if you are networking, but you're fluffing yourself up and you're kind of putting yourself into spaces or saying things you can do, things that you actually can't do, then that's going to be, they're just going to do the opposite effect, right? Because then you're going to start getting a reputation that you don't know what you're doing, you know? Right. So,
Yeah, that's interesting. So you were in North Carolina raising your son. What drew you back home?
My parents. Well, they were like, come back home. And then I wasn't ready, because I think for me too, with everything I liked and wanted to pursue, I kept leaving, clearly, you know. I even lived in Vegas for a couple months. So it's like, I went to Vegas, moved back home, moved to New York, moved back home, moved to LA. I just felt like everything I wanted to do was not going to be here. And then also, like, you know.
Why is that?
I just, you know, I'm not quite sure where I thought. I think it's because growing up that I saw all these people leave to go pursue these things, right? You know, I wasn't going to be an Elvis impersonator. So it's like, what could I do here? And ironically enough, too, even up until I left for LA, I was with an agency, and I didn't quite understand how it all worked, to be honest. Right. Like, I was with an agency out here from when I was like 4 or 5 to my 20s, and I would do some stuff here and there. I did a couple commercials here and there, but I didn't fully feel connected to it, and I also fully didn't understand, really. Like, so funny, I remember I dyed my hair like half blonde, half black. Right. And then...
Me too.
Yeah,
that was every kid from Khalid's hairstyle.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. I worked at Hot Topic, too, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Pro Ridge.
No, Ala Moana. Back when it was scary. People were scared to go inside, and I was like... And I didn't have any, like, piercings or tattoos back then, and people were like, you work here? And I'd be like, yeah.
When did you learn what a talent agent does, and who did you learn from?
When I got the job.
Yeah.
Okay, so after North Carolina, I worked on another reality show in North Carolina. I was like racing. Also, so funny. I worked on 2 car reality TV shows. And my husband was always like, do they know you have no idea anything about cars? So I was like, I'm just writing whatever they're saying. I don't know. Yeah. I still don't know. I didn't learn anything. I took good notes though, so you know.
That's good.
Yeah. They actually for the racing one, there was a bunch of producers and they were all attached to different drivers, and my driver ended up being at the end. But at the very end, they were doing a whole thing where they were driving out to every single person's personal home where their garage was and all their stuff. And they actually kept me on. And I was the only one, and I toured with them, which is fun too. And that's why.
Sick.
And I just took good notes because I had no idea what they were.
It's probably a dream job for a lot of guys.
Oh, probably. I was tripping because for me it was like a culture shock, right? I was like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
There's a Confederate flag there. Okay. Like, what? You know?
Yeah.
And then they're looking at me like, you're from Hawaii?
Yeah.
Like,
What is that?
Exactly. Yeah. So it was a trip. I was like, where am I?
Yeah.
But yeah, so then, yeah, my parents kept saying, move back home, you know? And honestly, I was like, no. But my husband was like, I never got to live in Hawaii. And I was like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was a good choice too, because I feel like Hawaii is just like so safe for kids. So yeah, and then my son got to go to the beach the whole time, and then the pandemic hit, so this is the best place to be trapped, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, but when I moved back home, I was like, I need a job.
Right.
And my friend was actually leaving her job as a talent agency. As a talent agent with an agency, and she was going to go into a marketing job. And I guess her boss was like, you need to find somebody who's like you, right? And so when I moved back home, she was like, you. And I was like, me? Because I had no experience in it, right? But she was like, she was like kind of dramatic. She was like, everything you've ever done in your life is like for this one job. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'd be like that.
Yeah.
You know? And would you say it was?
Yeah. I mean, when she said it, I was like, okay, like you're really dramatic. but and I also like know her, so I was like, I see why on a personal level why she thought like I could do it. So I was like, okay, let's try this, right? But it was kind of interesting because very quickly, I realized I did know a lot about what I was doing without ever being a talent agent, right? So I remember my boss, because my boss at the time, she had an agency and she also had like a school, and she was very, very like experienced and educated in like the modeling side and the commercial side and just Hawaii's industry, right? And for me, mine was from like LA. So I remember she asked me to ask the casting director out here, one of the main casting directors, Rachel, a question, and I was like, no. And she was like, no, I want you to write her this email and ask her this thing. And I was like, no, because that's like not how it works, you know? And then she was like, but respectfully, I did it. But then I called Rachel and I was like, I just want to let you know, I wrote this email because she told me to, but also like, I understand that this is not how it works. And then I forgot what the situation was. And then that's when Rachel was also like, oh, you know what you're doing. Yeah. So
you're saying like, that's not how it works as compared to like how LA does it or other places do it. Hawaii kind of has its own way of doing things.
No, it was just that she didn't know. I forgot. I wish I knew what it was, but it was like a question to do with booking somebody. I don't remember if it was like the rate or what it is or what it was, but I just knew that I was like, that's not how it works.
Okay.
And then
you saying as a talent agent, you don't call casting.
You can't negotiate a SAG rate. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's what it was, but it was something like that, right? Where it's like, okay, this is just like the standard. If you have a one line and one day on set or whatever, like, I remember, for example, I booked a talent on set, and then he was trying to leave. He calls me. He's like, "Oh, I haven't gone on yet, but I have a gig tonight." And I was like, "Oh no, you stay there. You have to stay there all day until you're done." And he was like, "What?" And I was like, "You didn't know this?" You know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think part of why I do what I do or how I do it is in my experience with that first agency. I realized like, people don't know how it works. People don't understand, you know. We were sending people on set blindly, and like people in LA just know because they moved to LA for this sole purpose of doing these things, right? And then like sometimes it's just like, you know, somebody's dad wanted to try it one day, and then now he booked a commercial. I know.
Yeah, it's totally like that. And you know, it's funny because I've been in the industry almost like 20 years, right? And you know, you can work on set all that time and not know what happens offset, right? And that's why I wanted to kind of have you on today and talk with you, because I know nothing about that realm of talent agents, but like you said, it's very important. And you know, there's ways to do, there's professional ways of doing these things. And your talent agent, a lot of the time, are they responsible for training or educating the actor or your talent? Or
so really what a talent agent does is just submit. A talent agent just submits. They find and sign talent, and then they submit them, and that's pretty much it. And they can negotiate contracts. A manager is going to develop a talent more, kind of have a say in all their career and guidance and all that. But also, like, not everyone needs a manager, because you really don't need a manager until like you're having a career and things are becoming like you need management.
Unmanageable.
Yeah, exactly. It's being unmanageable. And then you got to be like, should I do this series or should I do this? Like, or if this overlaps, like, are they going to be able to accommodate that? I'm going to be filming in New Zealand. I'm going to be filming, you know what I mean? So that's when you really need a manager. But I recognized early on in my experience with that first agency that, like, in Hawaii, people need extra help, especially if they want to branch out to go to LA or New York, you know what I mean? And to realize, like, you can be at that level or that standard or what they're looking for in LA, but you gotta know what you're doing here. And like, sometimes it's so hard. I never want to burst anyone's bubble, but sometimes I have people be like, oh, they have like 3 credits and they had like 1 line. And then 2 lines, and then their background, and they're like, I'm gonna go to LA and I want a speaking role, and I'm like, okay, you gotta like take it down a little bit. You gotta like know. And they're also going up against people who are like have 20 credits. You know what I mean? So
that's a big thing, like knowing your resume, knowing
your type, your resume. And sometimes what you think your type is, that's not how casting perceives you, or sometimes that's not how you come off to other people, right? So it's like, you got to know your type. You got to know what you're going to go in for. You're going to have to know what roles you can be in. And I think that's part of what I do, is like, I try to be realistic. And I ask people too, like, what do you want to do? What are you trying to do? Like, what are your goals? And then it's kind of like, okay, well, because some people are like, hey, I just find booking, but I'm never going to leave Hawaii. Great. And then there's people who are like, okay, I eventually want to be submitted for other stuff. Then I'm like, you better get your headshot like professional. You better get your reels up. You better start doing stuff, building credits, you know? And it's possible, but people do need guidance. And so while I could just be like, oh, I submitted you, I feel guilty being like, you're not going to get it if you got a selfie, you know what I mean? So it's like, so that's why too, I'm very, not that I'm selective, but like, anyone who reaches out to me, I don't sign everyone. Right. Because also, and also too, if people start to get stagnant and like not respond and not go on to auditions, I'll reach out and go, hey, what's happening? Haven't heard from you. What's going on? Because for me, I'm like, I know I'm more hands-on. So even in my contract with people, it literally says, Jerry Maguire, help me help you. Yeah, if you don't want this, then that's fine. But I'm going to go help somebody who does want it, right? Because it does need a little bit extra care, I think.
What does a good talent look like to you? Are they're just taking all your advice and really, you know, doing all the things that you're suggesting, or
listening
just
to me?
Yeah.
Do what I say.
Okay, call me back.
Well, communication. Hands down communication. And like for me too, like I actually had a talent where I was like, hi, like what's happening with you? And she finally was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I got a new job. And I definitely am still here, but just like, so it's like, okay, she communicated with me. I know she's still interested. She's just busy. That's fine. Then I have ones I'm like, hello, haven't heard from you. And then I had one where they didn't answer me for like 3 months. So I was like, I'm just going to terminate you. I don't know what happened to you. Hope you're fine. But a good talent to me is somebody who communicates. And like I said, help me help you. So get your headshot updated. Update your, you know, it's funny. Sometimes every now and then I'll get somebody who's like, I haven't booked anything. And I'm like, well, let me look at your profile. Okay, well, it's not updated. You don't have a professional headshot. You don't have any of your clips up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And how many options does someone from Hawaii have when it comes to choosing a local talent agent?
I think I don't know. There's I might as well name them.
Yeah.
So I'm scared. Like, I don't want to miss anybody. Premier,
Okay.
Kathy Muller, ADR, Bliss, Niche. And then there's some that one-offs that are just like modeling only.
Right.
But those are the kind of the main, and then the main ones that are doing like, I think everything acting and modeling.
I was going to say they handle everything.
Yeah, acting, modeling,
modeling.
commercial. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Premier, Kathy Muller, ADR, they've been around for a while. They've been around. So I was with ADR when I was 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was under the direction of Ray Sasaki, and me, my mom, and dad were all with them. So funny. My dad was like a local model. I mean, he was an actor, but he got a lot of like local modeling gigs because he's like mixed brown wine, handsome. Dad. He's like,
Thanks,
oh,
Dad.
I know, Dad's watching. Anyway, but I was impersonating. But it's funny because I remember Kathy Muller herself was like trying to poach my dad.
Oh,
She was
really?
always like, come to my agency. Yeah. And then now, you know, she's kind of retired. It's not even her. So it's like funny. Like there's this history that I wasn't even really paying attention to. You know, I booked a couple things with ADR and I was just like, whatever.
Right.
But also when I think about it, like what shows were out there? I remember at one point there was like Birds of Paradise, right? And then like,
I was on that show.
were you?
Yeah.
What year?
That was my first background job, running in the hallway.
Yeah.
Tim Busfield had Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Jennifer Love Hewitt, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I met her because she was, I guess they were filming it, and I met her outside of the Kahala Hotel.
Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah. But there were shows here, but there wasn't a lot, right?
No.
And I don't, so,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I think, and then Lost came up, right?
Yeah.
And they were casting all kinds background, and, you know, I think more than Birds of Paradise had opportunities for, really.
Yeah.
But even back then, you know, the speaking roles weren't really being, I don't think
No,
they're,
never given out to anyone here.
That's why I always say we've come a long way. And I feel like Lost is also a great example of how Hawaii can be anywhere and anything.
Yeah.
And people need to recognize that, because it's like that show in itself. You're like, oh, it's New York. Oh, it's Australia. Oh, it's Korea. Yeah.
We can do that too.
We can do it.
You know, one thing that I think about that I feel like, just say me personally, I would never be worthy enough to go to a talent agency and say, you know, oh yeah, I feel like I can do something and I want to do this, you know. People feel, I'm going to tell you, like, people feel intimidated just to seek a talent agent. Like, they feel like you already needed to be doing something and wait for someone to come to you and say, hey, I'm a talent agent. I seen you in this.
Yeah.
Would you like to sign? Is that true? Or?
No. I know I just said I don't sign everyone, but here's the thing. The people I sign, they're not always like, oh, I have a resume and a headshot. They're not always prepared. I have people who have never tried it before, who they just want to try. They want to know, you know? And sometimes it depends. I sometimes take people on like that. And it just, for me, there's no like one set of criteria. I mean, like, for sure, if you got your headshot, your resume, and your reel and everything, I'm going to consider you for sure. And sometimes I have people not from here who are reaching out to me for representation, and they have all the things. And sometimes I'm just like, no. And that's also because, like, I really want to focus on people here. And one of the things I do ask too is like, what is your connection? So I have people who are who are in LA, but they're like from here. You know what I mean? Or they're living in New York, but they're from here, or they used to live here, or you know what I mean? There's always some kind of tie. And then also recognizing, like, could they book stuff out here, right? And so part of it, it's really a mix. It really depends, right? But I do take people who have never done anything. And then ultimately what I ask, because just what's necessary is a self-tape. So for me, if someone approaches me and they have no experience, they've never done anything, but let's see, they look a certain type, or like maybe I can see like how they could maybe do something or whatever, or they sometimes people say like, I've never done anything, but in high school I was in a play, you know. I'll say, okay, here are self-tape instructions, and do it. And honestly, what that kind of filters out people, because for me, I'm like, some people never respond to me ever again. And I'm like, well, if they couldn't even do that when I'm giving them the directions. And I also say too, like, it doesn't have to be perfect. I just got to see what you're working with. I got to see also how they're taking the direction, right? So if somebody tries and then they actually like follow directions pretty well and they're pretty good, then I'll be like, you know what, I'll take you on, and then I'm gonna help you figure it out. You know what I mean? But it really depends. But and then sometimes too, I have talent who it's like it's my talent. She's like a little girl, and then it's her dad.
Yeah.
And he's like, what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, now you're with the agency.
Yeah.
And then they book a commercial.
I think that's
you
the
know?
point, right? Like, don't feel like you gotta be Brad Pitt or some supermodel to reach out to a talent agent, to try to go that route, right? And how much money has somebody got to bring a talent agent? Is it like, okay, I'm gonna bring $2,000, then she's gonna sign me, and then she can go find me work? How does that work? Because sometimes I think people think I can't afford a talent agent.
So it's actually no money really. So some agencies do like a startup fee or like a website fee or something like that. But technically, talent agents aren't supposed to charge anything. But in Hawaii, it's a little different just because it's like, we're not having work all the time, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I think under SAG rules, no SAG franchise can actually charge talent anything. But so you really don't need any money, but you do in a way, because you do need to at least get especially if you want to take it seriously. And that's also kind of why I love that when I broke it down that Aubrey Lee agency is Allah, and Allah means path. It's because everyone's on a different path, you know? Because I have some people who only want to do voiceovers. I have some people who only can really do local commercials and only want to do local commercials, right? And then I have people who are like, I want to be in a movie, I want to be an actor, I want to move to LA. So everyone's a little different. So it just really depends. And then they have different nurturing, right? So like I said, I have a talent now who I booked who's now with the agency because he was the dad that booked with his daughter. And he's like, I liked it. I'll do it again. You know what I mean? He's like, call me anytime. You know what I mean? And because it's like,
I'm going into that role right now. So, yeah, look into it.
And you know, to commercials, like they don't speak.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, oh, pretending you're at the bank.
Yeah.
Pretending you're having dinner with your daughter.
Yeah. So you never know.
You never know.
Yeah.
I booked a whole family on an Aulani commercial, and like the family, I only represented the two daughters.
Yeah.
I booked the whole family, 3 kids, mom and dad. And they're like, oh my gosh. They're like, all we did was pretend. We're just like on the water slide. We're just in the beach. And I was like, oh, so hard.
Yeah. No, yeah. You never know. How does someone find a good talent agent?
Finding a good talent agent that depends on where you're at. I think so in Hawaii, I think honestly you can get representation if you just try, really. And then but in LA, you have to do your research because there's a lot of scammy people.
Really?
Yeah, even like managers. I had a talent who was like, oh, this manager wants to represent me. They're in LA. And I had to tell her, like, look, just because they're in LA doesn't necessarily mean. And I read through his whole contract and I was like, oh, nope. So for me, I like to help my talent because I also want to make sure that they're okay. Like, I don't ever want them to be stuck in a contract with somebody and it's just like, you know what I mean?
And that's what they get with you. Someone who has actually walked down that path, their own path, your path, experience rejection, experience what it's like to get critiqued, experience what it's like to be not casted as anything, right? And then now you as a talent agent can help coach and lead people on their path and guide people on their path. And I think that's critical. And I see that happening a lot where Hawaii now are having these people in these leadership positions or ownership positions, right? That are from here, that know the people from here. They know how to communicate with them, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that's important. We've got to continue to do that. Yeah. And if you are a leadership in your department, you know, and you want to come back to Hawaii and help, there's a lot of talent here. Yeah. A lot of eager people willing to learn here. Yeah. And I think it's a good idea. I think it's incredible what you're doing. It gives people a comfortability in Hawaii to be like, oh, Aubrey, she's from here. She went through it. And there's somebody I can relate to. I don't feel like some person just, you know, another number, you know?
Yeah, and that's the thing too, especially in LA, you're gonna, like, it depends on where you're at in your career, but you're gonna just feel like another number, another person. You're not gonna feel like you're being, I guess, catered to in a way. And I also tell people too, even out here, don't be afraid to ask for things from your agent. because they're working for you. You know what I mean? Ask for a report. Be like, what have you submitted me for? You know what I mean? I always offer that too, because it also keeps me accountable too, to be like, okay, yeah, I've been submitting you for this stuff, and it's like, oh, how come you didn't submit me for this? I'll be like, maybe I know something, maybe some, you know what I mean? So it just depends. But I had a talent who she has connections to here, but she's living in LA, and she had an agent who's just like, she's having some difficulty. So I helped her navigate that, because I was like, ask him for a talent report. And then he didn't want to give her one. And I was like, that's weird, because the talent report will show, especially through like breakdown services, all the things that your agent has submitted you for. And then sometimes too, I think the assumption too is sometimes you're like, oh, I haven't been in for anything. And sometimes it's like, well, ask for the report, because immediately people will be like, oh, my agent didn't submit me for it. I'm like, how do you know that? Sometimes casting didn't bring you in. You don't know. So if you see the report, then you can see like, oh, I didn't get brought in for this stuff or whatever. Or, and then you can ask your agent like, well, why do you think I'm not? Or maybe the agent can ask casting, and it's like sometimes like, oh, maybe it's your headshot. You know what I mean? It's good to, that's why communication is valuable, and don't be afraid to ask, right? Don't be afraid to ask, like, what do you think it is? Or did you submit me for all this stuff? Okay, yeah, so I didn't get brought in. Like, what do you think that's for, you know? And part of it, too, is, like, really the reality of the industry. And sometimes, too, people get a little spoiled here. It's great that they have so many opportunities, but I'm like, hey, you might go to LA and never get called in, right? Or, you know, right now we have casting for Untamed, right? And, you know, people are like, how come I didn't go for this role? And I'm like, how come you didn't go in for the main role? You want to know why you didn't go for like the main role? Like not to sound terrible, but you don't have any credits, right? So you have to be realistic about that. It's like, maybe you could play the main role, but right now, and I've had that too. I've had theater talent who's like, I have my MFA in acting. And I'm like, yeah, but you got 0 credit. Right. So it's like, and that matters. It matters. It's part of like the resume. It's part of the experience. It's part of also like marketing, right? And also I tell all my actors this, and they hate it, but I'm like, you got to get your social media game on now.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Not for all shows, but it is still important, because they need to know that you're marketing yourself, you know, and that you're doing your PR. Like, I know for Gossip Girl, the new one, that was really important. That was a huge part of casting. It was all the regular things, and then also like how many followers does each person have. That was huge, and it's because, especially for Gossip Girl, for the storyline and what everything was about, they needed to make sure they had a huge social media presence.
That's crazy.
Yeah, or like even like, you know, we got. If you go in for a test deal, right? So a test deal is when you're so close to booking, and the producers and director, everyone's like, okay, we like these 5 people for this one role. They're going to look at their credits, and then and because at this point, it's like everyone said yes. But now it's like the studio and the network, right? And then now they're going to go, okay, now they're going to look at deeper into them. Okay, how many credits do they have? What's their social media look like? And then that could make or break it. It's not just about acting anymore. You know what I mean?
That's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot, I'm looking at the time, and that was 1 hour.
That's
already.
cool.
But I always like to end asking you, what is one bit of advice that you can give either the upcoming actor or anybody thinking about in our industry?
Yeah. Just try. If you can't even bring yourself to try to read a scene, to try to memorize, to do it, then that's a huge part of it, right? Because a lot of this is like sink or swim, you gotta just dive in, right? And so I think that, and then also if you have someone who's a guidance to a mentor, whether it's like an acting teacher, your agent, you know, somebody, listen to them, right? Especially if they have experience, and if they're telling you, hey, this is like what you gotta do, because they might be telling you something you don't like or something you don't want to do, but you're gonna have to make a commitment, you know what I mean? Like, for example, the social media thing, you know, I'm telling my actors, I'm like, you got to build your social, they don't like it, but I'm like, if you want to get, that's what they're wanting now, right? They want you to have reels, they want you to have experience, and they want your social media up, then you got to just do it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Aubrey. And it's been great working with you at HFA.
Yeah.
We got a lot of big things going on, big things coming up. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for your passion to the industry and sharing your story.
Yeah. Thanks.